You're listening to Talk Amongst Yourself, the solo space where we pause, reflect, and get radically honest about the messy magic of being human. I'm your host, Kayleen. Just me, the mic, and you every week. So, in the words of Oprah Haza, come sail away with me. We've all done it, or had it done to us. Ghosting. But what if it's not just about avoiding awkward conversations? What if it's about fear, shame, or even self protection? In episode 2 of Talk Amongst Yourself, I'm unpacking the silence, the sting, and the stories behind why we disappear. No judgment, just truth. I'm your host, Kayleen. Ghosting has moved beyond dating into friendships, jobs, even family. It's often tied to emotional avoidance, anxiety, or conflict aversion. But it leaves the other person with a wound shaped like a question mark, right? I've ghosted and I've been ghosted. I think for me, sometimes it is emotional avoidance or it could be anxiety. It's definitely not conflict aversion because I don't have any problems dealing with conflict. I know several people do and they don't like conflict. They don't like dealing with conflict, but to me, conflict is a part of life. It's something we all deal with. Um, One time I left a friendship without a word, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to say this isn't working for me anymore. And when it happened to me, I'll tell you what, I spiraled. I replayed every conversation, every phone call, everything I could possibly think of went through my mind as I was trying to find out the moment that I became unworthy of a goodbye. And I think that's true of all of us. Like when something like this happens to us, we feel unworthy. Like, wow, they didn't even have the decency to say bye. They didn't even have the decency to tell me why. They didn't do this. They didn't do that, right? Um, I have done that. I have been in places like that. When I was in high school, the first, I think, ghosting that I remember that I can talk about was when I was dating this guy. I don't know, this might have been maybe our second or third date, and we were sitting in his car and we were at a park and we were just talking, and somehow our conversation shifted to like serious stuff. And out of nowhere, he says, "Have you ever had $100,000 under your mattress and there's nothing you can do with it? Like you can't put it in the bank, you can't really spend it." And this is me looking at him like, no, I've never even seen $100,000. What the hell are you talking about? And I'm probably, gosh, I don't know, maybe 16 at this time. He's probably like maybe 18, 19. Because, you had to date up, right? You had to date the older guys to make yourself, feel better because they were more mature and you wanted to deal with that type of maturity. But anyway, so he is talking about how he has a gun under his seat and how he always has to worry about, how he always has to look over his back, uh, be aware of his surroundings and things like that. And I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh my God, dude, this guy's got $100,000 under his mattress. Let me get some of that. That never even crossed my mind. What crossed my mind was, oh my God, I got to get out of this damn car. I got to get away from this guy, not because I believe that he would harm me, but if you think about that, that's putting yourself in harm's way. I mean, he's a drug dealer. Hello? Like, no, like I was done. Like that day, I was like, I am done. That was the last time I ever saw him. I ghosted his ass hard. I never called him. I never took a call from him again. Matter of fact, I don't even remember dude's name. That's how far ghosted that guy was. And I just could not put myself in that situation. So yes, 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 I ghosted somebody. I ghosted him big time. Didn't care. Whatever. Just not a situation I wanted to put myself in. And you know, I got ghosted. I got ghosted big time. I had this friend that I thought, we were on the same page. We were hiking together. We were doing fun things together. We always had, you know, good conversations when we were together. But One of the things I think that bugged me the most was, um, like when we would talk like on the phone or whatever, like it was always a one-sided conversation. Like I couldn't get in a word edgewise and it drove me absolutely bonkers. So we were having this conversation about this guy she was seeing, and this guy was an alcoholic, and my friend was older than me. She was a few years older than me. I mean, I was probably in my 20s and she was maybe in her later 20s, late 20s, early 30s. And she was dating this guy who was an alcoholic, and he was treating her like shit. He was treating her bad. I mean, she's my friend. Why wouldn't I say something about him? Why wouldn't I say, "What are you doing? Why are you with this guy? This guy's a douche." And she was mad. She made it abundantly clear that she didn't want me bad mouthing him. And I didn't take that to heart. And the next conversation we had, she was talking about how she had to go pick him up and had to give him some money because he had to pay something, blah, blah, blah. I did not agree with that. I disagreed with that wholeheartedly. So I went in. I was like, you have got to stop seeing this guy. This guy is going to drain you. He's sucking you dry. Why are you putting yourself through this? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, after that, needless to say, after that conversation, back in the day when you were on the phone, you could actually not hang it up all the way. Yes, this is before cell phones. You could actually like leave it kind of off the hook is what we called it, off the hook, and they could still be on the line and they could still hear everything. Well, I left the phone kind of off the hook, and I was talking to someone in the background and I was like, "Oh my god." That's not how I said it. But I was like, I cannot get a word in edgewise whenever I talk to this person. I was pretty upset about it. And I just lost it. And then I realized after that the phone was off the hook. So I just hung it up and I was like, oh my God, I hope she wasn't on there. I hope she didn't hear it. Well, needless to say, she ghosted me, completely ghosted me. I called her, left her messages. She never returned my call. Ghosted, ghosted. And it's always bothered me. It always bothered me, literally. And about, I don't know, gosh, I don't know, maybe a decade later, I looked up her address and I sent her a letter. Well, this is when like Facebook was new, and she reached out to me on Facebook actually, and she was like, "How did you get my address?" Blah blah blah. She was always kind of weird about her address because she had this boyfriend that basically ghosted her, and she thinks that there was something going on. I don't know what it was. It was probably the same situation that happened to me when I was ghosted another time, which I'll talk about in a second. So she was like, how did you find me, blah blah blah, duh, internet, I looked up your address, I sent you a letter. That's how that happened. And she told me she ghosted me or ended our friendship because she was like a previous counselor of mine, and she said it was unethical, but I know that that's bullshit, that that's not the reason why. It was you know, it was because, and then she says, it was because she asked me not to do something and I did it, which I did. I started talking about the guy, but don't talk to me about him if you don't want me to say something about him. That just doesn't make sense. So we never rekindled this friendship. We just left it where it was. I left it where it was. I got my closure. Most people, sometimes we don't get closure. I got my closure on that friendship. That's fine, whatever. I think it was because she probably heard me say what I said, and I would have freaking ghosted you too. But actually, I wouldn't have ghosted you. I probably would have cussed your ass out, and then we would have been done. So, those are two fine examples of ghosting and being ghosted on. Um, there was another time where I had a friend that I played college volleyball with, and we were pretty good friends. And we rekindled on Facebook, and I saw she had posted up about the riots that were happening when the George Floyd was going on. And somebody posted on her post about how all black people are monkeys and blah, blah, blah. And I lost my shit. First of all, I'm half black. So, yeah, that's a problem. Secondly, the biggest thing for me was that she gave that a thumbs up. To me, that's somebody I don't want to be associated with. And so I took her off my friends list, and I hadn't talked to her. It took her a year to notice. So I had screenshotted it because I knew this conversation was going to come. And she had finally reached out to me, and I'm like, it took you a year to, I was like, it took you a year, first of all, to even notice that I wasn't there. Secondly, this is why I stopped talking to you. Bam. Put the screenshot on that showed her thumbs up and showed what the woman had said. And she's like, "Well, that was my mother-in-law." And I'm like, "I don't give a shit who it was. I don't care if it was your mom. I don't care who it was. Somebody said something racist and you were okay with it. You actually gave them thumbs up. So to me, that means you were agreeing with them. And I don't want anything to do with you." And so I haven't talked to her since then. And she, every once in a while, I honestly, I haven't even changed my number. My number's been the same for like 20 years. She texted me, she would text me, reach out to me every once in a while saying, I'm thinking about you. I hope you're doing fine. I never replied. I never replied because I have nothing to say to you. I ended that friendship and it's over, and it's over for that specific reason. Um and that's the end of that. There was another friendship that, or it actually wasn't a friendship. It was a guy that I was dating who ghosted me. Um I thought, "Oh, this guy is great." We had been dating for quite some time, and you always think that you're the only one, right? And one day he just stopped calling. He stopped calling, and I called him. He never responded. And so I knew that he lived with his parents. And so this is a long, long time ago, but he was older than I was. I mean, I was in high school and he was like college age. And I called the number and his little brother answered and said, "Oh, Jay's not here right now. This is his little brother." And I lied and said I was a friend from college. I just wanted to call and see how Jay was doing, what's going on with him. And the kid was like, "Oh, Jay's doing really good." He was like, Jay's girlfriend is pregnant, so he's going to marry her. And man, did I take a blow to my heart, to my gut, to my mind. I was sick as hell when that came out of that kid's mouth. And I was like, "Oh, well, okay, thanks. Would you want to leave a message?" "No, I want to leave it a surprise. So I'm going to call him again." "Oh, okay." After I had gotten the information. So I got closure myself from that, not from Jay. And yes, I still do know his last name. I never ever looked him up either. But I was devastated. I was devastated. And I feel like, we all tend to do things like that, but I think it's a little different when it's like a different meaning, like when you've been seeing somebody for a long time and then they ghost you, or if you've been in a friendship for decades and they ghost you. I had lunch with a friend today, a really dear friend who I just adore, and I adore her mother. And we were talking about this very subject and about her best friend. Her best friend ghosted her, and she doesn't know why. Her best friend had recently been going through some things. She had lost her father, and I kind of had the same situation with a friend of mine. I mean, they weren't my best friend, but they were a pretty decent friend, and their mother died, and they kind of ghosted me too. So I don't know that we should take that stuff personally, but we were talking about how if it's somebody that's really close to you, do you reach out to them more? So do you continue to try even though it's been a while? But my friend said, "You know what? I'm thinking about just going out there and just showing up on her doorstep and waiting for her." And you know what I say to that? I say go for it, because it's a different type of relationship. Like that was your best friend. I mean, they went through thick and thin with you, and you were there too for them. And I just believe that if it's a friendship like that, go for it, man. Show up on their doorstep, hold them accountable. I think if it's a friendship like that or something deep like that, that they owe you an explanation. Um, Whether or not it's personal or not. And it may not be personal. Maybe they're just going through something and they just can't, they feel like they can't involve you. Like they don't, it's not that they don't want to reach out to you. It's just that maybe they just, they're just in their own world. And it does happen. Sometimes we do get in our own little worlds. And I'm just telling you, go for it, do it. If it's something that's that type of relationship, I say go for it. Definitely show up on that doorstep. Also, these kind of things happen in the work environment, where I mean, I've had an employee show up on their first day and never show back up. So, they ghosted us. They didn't even call and say, "Hey, I'm quitting." They didn't say nothing like that. They didn't say, anything. So, if that's the case, then I don't know, it's work. So honestly, I don't care because you can always hire someone else, right? So yeah, so that happened. I got ghosted at work by someone I didn't even know. But that stuff to me, it just really doesn't matter to me when it's cases like that. But I kind of feel like if it's someone that we are close to, or that we don't know why, but we need that type of closure. I mean, do we give up on them, or do we show up on their front doorstep? Show up on their front door. I'm just going to say, just do it. um if you're tempted to ghost somebody, maybe you should pause and ask, what am I afraid of? If you've been ghosted, you don't need closure to heal. We all can heal at some point. We're all going to heal. But I think what we deserve and what we need to give people is honesty, especially when it comes to relationships that you've had for a very long time. Like I told my friend why. I told her why I left, why I took her off my Facebook, because I don't want to be associated with people like that. It's clear enough. And once I think you do that, then you're on your way and you don't have to worry about that anymore, because I feel like, we want deeper connections, right? If that's the case, then I think we have to get better at endings, not just beginnings. Beginnings are so easy. We can all begin relationships, we can all begin friendships, we can all begin work relationships, all that stuff. But I think that we should definitely give people some closure. And I think we should give that to them with integrity, with compassion, uh, with honesty. I think if we can't do that, then the relationship basically didn't mean anything. And I guess then ghosting is fine if it's like that. I mean, to me, if it's a second date and I ghost you, whatever, later. Because let me tell you something, there's other fishes in the sea. You're going to meet many other people and you're going to do your thing, whatever you're going to do. But I just feel like if it's friendships and they have different meanings or deeper meanings, that we need to tell them why we're done. I don't think that they deserve to be ghosted. And I feel like ghosting is very easy, but honesty is healing. Um so that's why we need to tell them what the issue is. I think we owe them that. I think we owe them that. But I think in general, ghosting is a real thing. We've all done it. We've all been ghosted on. It doesn't feel good when it's you getting ghosted, right? So imagine how they feel when they're getting ghosted. But I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to go away. I think it's something that's always going to be there. I think sometimes honestly you got to ghost people. I'm not kidding. Like, I mean, I don't know. There's people that are kind of like, how do I say this? I don't know. I mean, we all have people in our lives that kind of like are too much, over the top, whatever you want to call it. Um, Sometimes you got to ghost those people. Sometimes you got to ghost them, and I think that's okay. I think we're okay doing that. I think we're okay ghosting other people. But honestly, if it's good friends and you're really close, show up on their doorstep, man. Do not let them off the hook that easy, especially if it's somebody you really deeply care about. Go get them. Go get them. Don't let them ghost you without a reasoning. And if their reasoning is legit, and hey, then it's legit. You're just gonna have to take your licks and move on. That's what I feel like. I feel like if you did something that was honestly something you can't backtrack on or move from, then that relationship is over, and it just is what it is. Um, anyway, I'll be back next week with something hopefully a little softer, but I doubt it. I doubt it. I know what next week's going to be, but I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be. You're just going to have to find out. But until then, I'm going to say, stay grounded, stay brave, go get them if it warrants it, and keep talking amongst yourselves. Thank you for staying with me, And till next week, have a good one.